The sound of shattering porcelain was louder than a gunshot in the silent, vaulted dining room of the Sterling mansion. A vintage Ming vase, worth more than most people earn in a decade, lay in 1,000 jagged pieces on the marble floor. But for once, nobody cared about the money. All eyes were fixed on Sarah, the new maid, who was standing amidst the wreckage, her hands trembling violently over her mouth, staring at the 2 5-year-old children standing in the doorway. She looked as if she had just seen a ghost. Victoria Sterling, the lady of the house, was the first to break the silence. She marched over, her heels clicking aggressively on the stone, her face twisted into a mask of pure fury. "You clumsy, incompetent idiot," Victoria shrieked, grabbing Sarah by the shoulder and shaking her. "Do you have any idea what you just broke? That vase was an antique. I knew hiring a woman with your background was a mistake. Get out. You are fired. Get your things and leave my house before I call the police and have you charged for the damages." But Sarah didn't move. She didn't even seem to hear Victoria's screaming. Her eyes were locked onto the twins, a boy and a girl, dressed in matching velvet outfits, who were clinging to the leg of Richard Sterling, Victoria's husband. Tears began to stream down Sarah's face, hot and fast, cutting through the dust on her cheeks. She took a step forward, ignoring the broken glass crunching under her shoes. "Leo," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Mia?" The little girl looked up, her big brown eyes wide with confusion. Sarah let out a sob that sounded like it was ripped from her very soul. "My babies," she screamed, collapsing to her knees, her arms reaching out. "Oh God, those are my babies. They're alive." Victoria stopped shouting and started laughing, a cold, cruel sound. "Your babies?" she scoffed, looking at her husband. "Richard, call security. The help has lost her mind. She thinks our children, whom we just adopted from the most exclusive agency in Switzerland, are hers. It's pathetic. Welcome to her secrets, her stories, the channel where we uncover the shocking truths that lie behind the closed doors of the elite. Today's story is a roller coaster of emotion, betrayal, and a mother's instinct that refused to be silenced. It's a mystery that will keep you guessing until the very last second. Before we unravel this web of lies, please take a moment to hit that like button. It helps us bring more incredible stories to light. And we want to know our family better. So drop a comment down below, telling us your name and which city you are watching from right now. We read every single one. Now, let's go back to that shattered dining room. Richard Sterling looked down at the sobbing maid. He was a hard businessman, but he wasn't cruel like his wife. He saw something in Sarah's eyes that terrified him. It wasn't madness. It was recognition. "What did you say?" Richard asked, his voice low. "Richard, don't engage with her!" Victoria snapped. "She's clearly having a psychotic break. These are our children. We paid $200,000 for the adoption fees. We have the papers." "They were stolen," Sarah choked out, looking up at Richard with desperate, pleading eyes. 5 years ago, at St. Jude's Hospital, there was a fire in the maternity ward. Smoke everywhere. The nurses told me my twins died from smoke inhalation. They never let me see the bodies. They said it would be too traumatic, but I knew. A mother knows. I felt them in the world. And now, look at them." Sarah pointed a shaking finger at the little boy, Leo. He has a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on his left shoulder blade. And she pointed to Mia. She has a tiny scar above her right eyebrow where she scratched herself in the incubator. The room went deadly silent. Victoria Froseshi looked at the boy. She had bathed him just yesterday. She knew exactly the birthmark Sarah was talking about. But instead of showing compassion, Victoria's face hardened into granite. She saw her perfect life, her perfect family image, being threatened by a woman in a maid's uniform. "You have been spying on us," Victoria hissed. "You probably saw them changing. You are a sick, twisted stalker trying to extort money from us. I am calling the police right now." Victoria pulled out her phone. "No!" Sarah screamed, trying to crawl toward the kids, but Richard stepped in between them. He didn't push her away, but he held up a hand to stop her. "Sarah, stop," Richard said firmly. "These are serious accusations. If you are lying, you will go to prison." "I am not lying," Sarah cried. Check the mark. Please, sir. Just check the mark. If I am wrong, you can lock me up forever. But if I am right, please, don't let her take them. Richard looked at his wife. Victoria, put the phone away. You can't be serious, Victoria gasped. You were actually listening to this. This cleaner. I want to see, Richa said. He knelt down next to the little boy. Leo? Hey, buddy, Richard said softly. Is it okay if I check your shirt? The boy nodded shyly. With trembling hands, Richard pulled the collar of the velvet shirt down just an inch. There, on the pale skin of the shoulder blade, was a distinct, undeniable birthmark shaped perfectly like a crescent moon. Richard felt the blood drain from his face. He looked at Mia. He brushed her bangs aside. A faint, tiny white line was visible above her eyebrow. Richard stood up slowly. He looked at Sarah, who was weeping into her hands. He looked at his wife, who was pale but defiant. They match, Reacher whispered. The marks match. Victoria panic shifted instantly. So what? It's a coincidence. Lots of kids have birthmarks. Or maybe she's the one who started the fire 5 years ago. Richard, get her out of here. She is upsetting the children. Victoria grabbed the twins by their arms, pulling them roughly toward the stairs. Come on, darlings. We are going to your room. This woman is dangerous. Sarah tried to lunge forward, but Richard caught her arm. Let me go! Sarah screamed. She's hurting them. She doesn't love them. She only bought them as accessories. Sarah, listen to me, Richard said, his voice intense and urgent, gripping her arm tight enough to bruise, but his eyes were kind. You cannot win this fight with screaming. Not today. Not against her lawyers. But they are mine. Sarah sobbed. I believe there is a possibility, Richard said, glancing at the stairs where his wife had disappeared. But we need proof. Real proof. Not just birthmarks. If you call the police now, Victoria will show them the legal adoption papers from the agency. They will arrest you for trespassing, and you will never see these kids again. Is that what you want? Sarah shook her head violently, terror in her eyes. Then you need to trust me, Reacher said. I'm going to fire you. Officially. Loudly. So Victoria thinks you are gone. Sarah's eyes went wide with betrayal. No. Listen. Richard hissed. I will kick you out the front door, but you will go to the motel on 4th Street. You will wait there. Tonight, I am going to take a DNA sample from the kids. Tomorrow morning, I will rush it to a private lab, if they are yours. I swear on my life, I will bring them to you. But you have to play the game. Can you do that? Sarah looked at this man, this billionaire who had every reason to protect his own interests, and she saw a flicker of decency she hadn't expected. She took a deep, shuddering breath and nodded. Okay, she whispered. But if you betray me, I will burn this world down to get them back. I know you will, Richard said. Then, raising his voice to a shout for his wife to hear upstairs, he yelled, I've had enough of your lies. Get out of my house immediately. And if you ever come back, I'm pressing charges. He grabbed Sarah by the arm and marched her to the front door, shoving her out into the rain. As the heavy door slammed shut, Sarah stood in the cold, wet darkness looking up at the lighted window of the nursery, praying to a god she thought had abandoned her 5 years ago, hoping that the man inside was a savior and not a monster. The next 48 hours were an agonizing blur of torture for Sarah. She sat in the cheap motel room, staring at the peeling wallpaper, clutching her phone, jumping every time a car drove past outside. Had he lied? Was he just trying to get rid of her without a scene? Every minute felt like a year. Meanwhile, inside the Sterling mansion, the atmosphere was suffocating. Victoria was acting as if nothing had happened, parading the twins around in new outfits, posting photos on social media with captions like my little angels and blessed mommy. But Richard was watching. He was watching how the twins flinched when Victoria raised her voice. He was watching how they looked around the room, as if searching for the lady with the kind eyes who had cried for them. And in his pocket, burning a hole through his jacket, was a sealed envelope he had just picked up from the genetic testing facility. He had paid $10,000 for an expedited rush service. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. He sat in his study, holding the envelope, terrified of opening it. If the results were negative, Sarah was just a grieving, delusional woman, and he could go back to his life. But if they were positive, it meant his entire family was built on a crime. It meant his wife was, at best, a fool, and at worst, an accomplice to child trafficking. Richard took a shot of whiskey, grabbed a letter opener, and sliced the envelope. He unfolded the paper. He scanned the technical jargon until his eyes landed on the summary at the bottom. Probability of paternity, 0%. Probability of maternity sample B, Sarah Jenkins, 99.999%. Richard let out a breath he felt he had been holding for 2 days. It was true. The agency, the prestigious Golden Cradle in Switzerland, had lied. They hadn't found orphans. They had sourced stolen babies for rich Americans who asked no questions. Richard felt a wave of nausea, followed by a wave of cold, hard rage. He stood up. He didn't go to Victoria. He went to the safe, took out a stack of cash, grabbed his car keys, and drove straight to the motel. When Sarah opened the door, she looked like a ghost. She saw the paper in Richard's hand and stopped breathing. Richard didn't say a word. He just handed her the document. Sarah read Italiano. Her legs gave out, and she slid down the door frame to the floor, clutching the paper to her chest, sobbing not tears of pain this time, but tears of vindication. They are mine, she wept. They are really mine. They are yours, Richard said gently, helping her up. Get in the car. We are going to get them. The drive back to the mansion was silent, charged with the energy of a coming storm. When they burst through the front doors, Victoria was in the living room, showing the twins a new iPad. She looked up, and her face twisted in shock when she saw Sarah. What is she doing here? Victoria shrieked, standing up. Richard, I told you to get rid of her. Why is this trash in our house? Richard walked past his wife and went straight to the kids. Leo, Mia, he said softly. Go pack your backpacks, just your favorite toys. Quickly. The kids ran upstairs. What are you doing? Victoria screamed, grabbing Richard's arm. You are scaring them. Richard shook her off and slammed the DNA results onto the coffee table. Read it, Victoria. Victoria looked at the paper. She didn't read it. She just glanced at it and sneered. I don't care what some piece of paper says. We have a contract. We paid for them. They are legally ours. They were stolen, Richard roared, his voice shaking the walls. They were stolen from a hospital fire. Their mother was told they were dead. The agency lied to us, Victoria. We are not parents. We are kidnappers. So what? Victoria yelled back, her mask finally slipping, revealing the ugliness underneath. Who cares where they came from? We gave them a better life. Look at her. She pointed at Sarah with disgust. She is a maid. She can't give them anything. We are billionaires. We are doing them a favor. If you take them away, you are ruining their future. Sarah stepped forward. She wasn't the scared maid anymore. She was a mother lioness. I may not have your money, Sarah said, her voice steady and steel-hard, but I will never look at them like they are products you bought at a store. You didn't adopt them to love them. Victoria, you adopted them to match your purse. Shut up. Victoria lunged at Sarah, raising her hand to slap her. Richard caught his wife's wrist in midair. Don't, Richard said, his voice deadly calm. Don't you dare touch her. It's over, Victoria. I've already called the police. They are raiding the agency's headquarters as we speak, and I told them everything. Victoria's face went pale. You called the police on us. On the agency, Richard corrected. But if you try to stop Sarah from taking her children, I will make sure you are named as an accomplice. At that moment, the twins came running down the stairs with their backpacks. They stopped when they saw Sarah. They didn't remember her. They were babies when they were taken, but they sensed the emotion in the room. Sarah knelt down, opening her arms. Leo, Mia, she whispered. The kids looked at Richard. He nodded, smiling through his own tears. Go on, Richard said. Go to your mom. The kids ran. They crashed into Sarah, and she wrapped them in an embrace that had been waiting 5 years to happen. Victoria collapsed onto the sofa, watching her perfect, manufactured life crumble into dust. She had lost. Money couldn't buy biology, and it certainly couldn't buy the bond that was happening on her living room floor. Richard walked over to Sarah. "I have a guest house on my estate in the countryside," he said. "It's fully furnished. It's yours. For as long as you need. I will pay for the kids' education. I will pay for everything. It's the least I can do to pay for being part of this lie." Sarah looked up at him. She saw a man who had lost his family that day too, but who had chosen to do the right thing. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me my life back." Richard watched them walk out the door, a mother and her 2 children, reunited against all odds. He turned back to Victoria, who was crying about her reputation and her money. He took off his wedding ring and placed it on the table next to the DNA results. "You're worried about the money, Victoria," Richard said as he walked toward the door. "You can keep it. I'd rather be poor and have a conscience." And that is how a broken vase shattered a web of lies and reunited a family. It's a powerful reminder that the truth always finds a way to the surface, no matter how much money you pile on top of it. Sarah got her babies back, not because she was rich, but because she never stopped loving them. And Richard proved that being a real man isn't about controlling your family, but about protecting the truth, even when it hurts. What do you think about Richard's decision to leave his wife? Did Victoria deserve to go to jail? Or was she just a victim of the agency too? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please smash that like button and share it with everyone you know. Miracles happen every day, and sometimes they start with a mother's intuition. Don't forget to subscribe to Her Secrets, her stories for more unbelievable tales of justice and redemption. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.